What's up?
Happy Tuesday.
Happy Tuesday.
Heavy week.
Pretty heavy week, yeah. I'd agree.
All the way around.
Yeah, almost every day.
I mean, it's just... I get to come hang out with you and decompress a little bit.
I hope so. I hope we have some fun tonight. You know, there's some dicey topics that aren't that controversial, I guess.
No, yeah, well.
I don't know. I'm gonna...
In Bitcoin terms, it's pretty tame these days.
Yeah.
Relative to the rest of the world.
I think the thing
Remember when Bitcoin used to be the chaotic thing?
Yeah. I think, the thing that's probably most top of mind is a topic on the show tonight. So
yeah,
I'm not going to get into it before. I think we got great special guests tonight.
We do. Let's jump right in the show
for
because
BitcoinCenter.
It is loaded.
This is live stream number 20, brought to you by Byte Federal. Go bank yourself. Point of sale, the wallet,
POS,
and Bitcoin ATMs. Yep.
I'm
Buy
Paul
Bitcoin
Tarantino.
self-custody.
This is Cedric. Let's be real, right? Praising Telegram for launching a Bitcoin wallet. I've always felt like with Haley.
Bitcoin, this digital currency that's out there that people say, oh, it might be the next big thing. What do you think?
I think it's rat poison.
Bitcoins. You never heard of them a few weeks ago? Now everybody's talking about them, but is it a currency?
I don't know. Or is it more like a stock? Or is it a tulip bulb?
Or is
We're
it
going to
just
debate that.
Stupid.
To me, it smells like Ponzi scheme and the greater fool theory, right?
Do like 5 minutes of freaking research.
It was me.
Oh, man, I was getting that wrong. All right. Bitcoin's recent rally.
Do you agree? Is crypto finally dead? Go to the next one.
Matter of fact, they're kind of in the Ethernet. What are they? Some rumors that it's this Japanese guy, but others say no, that he's a fake name. It was a pseudonym. I mean, you're literally putting real money onto a system that we don't even know who created it.
People come to a bad ending.
Is this the most exciting bull run ever?
Not for me. No, it's not.
Welcome to BitcoinCenter, the fast-paced show where the debate is the story.
Yo, here we are. The inflation surprise. Is the rate cut still on?
Yes.
Okay.
Next. No, just kidding. Yeah, it's still on because we've got horrible job numbers. And it's probably going to be 25 basis points, which is kind of like meaningless anyways. So they're going to get the 25 basis points, and it's not going to mean much for anything.
Is that all we're going to get, 25 basis points?
I think so.
And do you think that's going to do anything for the economy?
I mean, no, that's kind of irrelevant. 25 bips.
Yeah.
I mean,
do you think the market is already...
I think liquidity is a lot more important than that. So.
Do you think most markets have already priced that in?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, if we get a surprise, then, yeah, markets will adjust quickly, but I'm not expecting it.
What would be a surprise? I mean, what would be sort of
probably
50?
Probably
That's
50,
a surprise.
I think 50 would be enough to.
Yeah. What if they don't cut anything?
Yeah, that'd probably be a little bit of a surprise.
What do you think?
Too.
What will happen with markets then? Like,
I mean, there'd probably be a little bit of hiccup, and then they'll look around and go, "All right, China's still printing. Let's go."
All right, let's move on to the next one. I think it's
U.S. Treasury hints targeting Bitcoin privacy. With the Treasury moving to apply the Patriot Act to crypto and label mixers as money laundering threats, does this destroy Bitcoin's fungibility or force a wider showdown over financial privacy in the digital age?
I think this is really bad news.
Yeah.
This looks horrible. This puts anything really that's doing like any sort of like transactional of nature of a transactional nature really under scrutiny, and
like creating multiple public addresses.
Yeah, but this goes beyond Mixer. This is about applying the Patriot Act to all digital assets, and going after illicit activity. And they did a survey of 111 incidents through sort of decentralized financial protocols. Not even Bitcoin. A lot of it was even related to sort of like, I guess, Bitcoin ATMs in Illinois. There was some petty theft that seemed like a crime, and they're using that as justification to crack down on the entire industry. And while they're doing things to roll out the regulatory framework for stable coins, they're very quickly moving on these other issues with, I think, a lot more clarity.
Yeah, I think this is a major threat. This is almost like what they tried to do on the way out of the first administration. When Trump's first administration, on his way out, they tried to kill like private wallets, and then Biden tried to do something similar. And I think I'm afraid this time that it's flying under the radar, and not a lot of people know about this threat. But this is going to be
anything related to
something
privacy
that destroys your ability to really hold Bitcoin privately and securely.
Yeah. They're even going after something like, they're looking at like smurfing. So in like the traditional system, if you sort of break up your payments to less than 10,000, and they're thinking anytime any independent party breaks up the,
it's really a push to like have you have an account somewhere.
Yeah.
That's what they're trying to do.
Yeah, I agree. And I think this kind of some way is tied to the next issue, though. I really do, in some unforeseen way. But I think we should get on to the next topic here. We got an exciting special guest. So this is about the Bitcoin, Knots versus Core debate. I think we're going to bring in Jimmy Song here.
Should we bring him now, or we have a clip of something?
Let's play the clip, and then we'll bring in Jimmy.
Blind trust in developers is a huge risk because developers are fallible, right? There are things that we've done and changed in Bitcoin that I don't think we've fully analyzed the impacts of, right? Like, Taproot and being able to inscribe data. That's like a recent side effect of things that were done years ago. Or increasing the block weight from SegWit. That's also something that probably had a lot of impacts, right? What are the longer term implementations of changing the protocol in a fundamental manner? I think the best thing to do at this point is really to take a step back and evaluate a lot of the things that have been done and what the implementations of those things were. Because if you just trust the developers, then that's like saying trust the science, right? It's like a major risk. And the culture is that we don't question the developers. Like, I think in 2022 or something, I posted about CVE 2018-17-144, which was an inflation bug, which I'm not going to name names, but a developer added that. And I got a lot of blowback because people were saying, well, it was everyone's fault. It was missed in testing, and I'm responsible. But the real point is, like, one guy thought he was making Bitcoin better and changed something, which added this inflation bug that was out there in Bitcoin. Fortunately, it wasn't abused, but we have to question and look at the system more holistically and slow down on trying to change Bitcoin, because it's a true $1 trillion asset now. And if we're not really careful, if we're not looking at all aspects, all impacts, that can be catastrophic.
All right, we have Jimmy. Jimmy Song, thank you for joining us. That's great to hear from a developer, coder. Are you going to be upgrading to Core V30?
I am not. I will be staying with the nodes that I have.
And so does that mean, are you staying on Core V29?
I have multiple nodes, and that's one of them. Yes.
Why do you run more than one node?
Well, I'm a developer, and I try different things and see how they're different and stuff like that. And I want one that I can access via RPC, which I have to keep around because I have a domain that I put into my programming Bitcoin book that people still access and so on. And then I have one for my own that's more for private, transaction lookup and so on. And I used to have some running in the cloud, but I don't anymore. But yeah, I mean, I'm a developer, and really, I just I like tinkering with stuff, and that's part of what I do.
One of the things that Samson said there was the amount of eyes looking at Core, and that's one of the arguments I've heard against Knots.
Yeah.
Do you think that's an accurate critique of Knots, or or not?
Well, I mean, for certain, there are more developers on core than knots, and I don't think that's in dispute at all. The tricky thing is that a lot of the code from knots is straight from core, right? It's a fork of core, so it's there. A lot of it is honestly exactly the same. It's a bunch of different patches and changes that the knots people felt like that were beneficial. No bear multisig, for example, which I still don't understand why that isn't like non-standard yet. And those things are part of knots. So it's not like a straightforward calculation. It's not like they're doing independent development. It's the knots takes a lot of the patches from core and so on. So it's not that straightforward.
Okay.
Are you going to run knots on one of your nodes?
I have one running. Yeah. I think it's only prudent to try stuff. I used to have a BTCD node a while back, and I tried to get a libBitcoin node up, but I never had enough resources to get one of those up. So I don't have a Libre Relay node up. Not really interested in that. That's a very small change set in any case. So yeah.
Do you think it's important for Bitcoiners who have a non-developer background or non-coding or computer science background to run a node for themselves?
Yeah, if you want privacy, for certain, right? That's the main reason why most people run a node is you want privacy. You want to verify things for yourself. If you're looking up stuff on somebody else's node, they can lie to you. So that's where the verify don't trust whole thing comes in. So I would say for a lot of people that's a big reason, but also the nodes are the peer-to-peer network, right? Like that is the network, and I don't think I appreciated this quite as much until this debate came up, but that's a big part of Satoshi's design for Bitcoin. And we have a situation where we have miner centralization, and there are maybe 6 to 10 mining pools that control something like 95% of the hashing rate. So if you can get things to them and bypass the peer-to-peer network, then they'll oftentimes mine it. So that's not really the original design, and I think that's not a good thing. Thankfully, we are sort of moving away from that. I don't think there's any dispute that decentralizing mining would be a good thing for Bitcoin. But like the question right now is, okay, what do we do in this weird in-between state between where we have centralized mining among 6 to 10 players, and this future that we want where we have decentralized mining, and the peer-to-peer network is where miners find out about transactions and so on. That's really the crux of what sort of spurred this debate, is that we do have miner centralization, and unfortunately not enough of them have moved over to Datum or Stratum v2, where it would decentralize mining significantly.
You had recently you posted one of your vlogs about locking the door on your house and related it to the knots versus core debate, and that I thought that was just a really simple and brilliant way to explain it to a non-developer like myself. I wonder if you could elaborate on that and tell us, give us kind of your insight on filtering spam on the network.
Yeah, so there's been a lot of weird definitions in this debate, right? Where people say, well, filters don't work. What do you mean by work, right? Like, does it prevent all possible spam from going in? And that's usually what a lot of people on the core side of the debate make it mean when they say, do filters work? Does it 100% of the time prevent this particular type of transaction? And that's a little bit of a straw man, right? Because that would require some sort of consensus change to enact. But really what you're asking when you have a filter is, does it prevent just even a little bit, right? Like having a lock on your door is not going to prevent a determined burglar from coming into your house and taking your stuff. But having one there will maybe prevent like a marginal burglar, one that's not really quite as professional. So that's how I see filters. It's not like the end all, that prevents every possible type. I mean, that would be like Fort Knox or something like that. You don't need to be Fort Knox oftentimes, but it just needs to add a cost, and that's really where I think a lot of the analysis goes wrong. Is that they say filter. A lot of people on the Core side say filters are useless because it doesn't prevent all spam, but like that's a little bit of a rhetorical trick, because really all you need to do is prevent some spam for it to be effective. And that was basically my point, and I think that's where stuff like data, like removing the data carrier size, it's deprecated, so it's not going to disappear in the next release, but it's slated for deletion. Where doing an act like that is very unwise, because it's a useful tool in our toolbox. It's like saying, well, the locks don't work all the time, so we're going to remove the lock, right? I mean, not tomorrow, but sometime in the future, we'll just remove the front door lock, and it's that just seems like a very unwise move to me.
Where do we go from here? Do you think we just decentralize sort of clients and get a third and a fourth client beyond knots, or maybe there's a path to a compromise around op return limit? Do you think what do you think of?
I mean, the core developers that signed that letter were pretty emphatic that they wanted these changes to go through. There was a huge community uproar, as you know, and that the pull request had some 400 comments or something ridiculous, and a lot of knacks and things like that, but they still pushed it through. So to me, I don't think they're budging on this one, not unless I don't know, maybe the people that are funding a lot of these devs are like, hey, like, I'm pulling your funding unless you do that. Even then, I'm not sure that would happen. So they seem pretty dug in. There is the knots side. Is there room for a third or fourth implementation? Probably. But that requires a lot of skills and developers and probably money and things like that. Is there funding for that and so on? I don't know. Right? These are all open questions, and we don't know where it goes. But I wouldn't be surprised if it did. I wouldn't be surprised if some sort of compromise came through. Like I would consider, for example, like changing it from 80 to 160, right, instead of 80 to 100,000. And not marking it deprecated and changing back the 0.1 sat per vbyte back to 1 sat per vbyte as enough. Like, you're allowing, multiple op returns in a transaction again and stuff like that, which wasn't standard before. But I think that would be a reasonable compromise that I think a lot of people could get behind. But like I said, that doesn't seem like something the core devs that signed that letter seem at all interested in. And I mean, I gotta tell you, I really don't understand why, because it's a very, I've never seen like this level of resistance from core devs on community feedback like this ever.
Yeah, to do something so really controversial. And I think a Bitcoin is sort of like a plane that's already in the air 30,000 feet. And if you're going to fix it, I mean, you can't take it out of the sky. Do you have a question?
No, I agree with 100% with what you're saying. And that's what I find concerning about this entire debate is they're so, antagonistic about and demanding about putting through the changes that they want to put through without considering.
Well, they had a near monopoly. If you would think of it as a for-profit entity, which is not, they had a near monopoly on users.
Yeah.
And if you're coding and you want your work to last for 1,000 years, you want to keep all your users. You wouldn't I mean, this is a drastic.
Well,
15.
I mean, like if you're Coke and you release a new flavor of Coke and everybody's like, this is garbage, or you change your logo and it's garbage.
Right. I mean, if Coke lost 15%
back, right?
of their market share, like when Bud Light lost 15% of the market,
yeah. So hopefully this.
You know, I mean.
Well, they're not like making money, right? Like
No,
this is where
it.
it gets a little weird because it's an open source project, and
yeah, but you would want it to live on. You wouldn't want to deprecate, to use your own client, you know, and your user base. You wouldn't want to erode.
I'm not sure they see it that way.
Right.
Like most likely they see it as they're doing the right thing, whatever. I mean, I still don't understand the logic. It still hasn't been explained to me why you're not changing it to 160 instead of 100,000. That just seems like you're opening the doors wide open, right? It's not even leaving a lock, removing the lock. It's just leaving it wide
open. Taking the door off. Yeah.
Like that still and the only reason I've gotten is, well, you know, if somebody needs 320, then we're gonna have to do another pull request, and then somebody needs like 640, then we're gonna have to do another pull request. I'm like, okay.
It's almost like we can't get this in while we have the monopoly.
Like just because you don't want to go through the political battles more often. Like if it's like a user issue, I don't see why you would open the doors wide open.
Well, you know, like if they're, you know, when this whole debate started, it seemed like it was like, well, it's not really that big of a deal, so why are you even worried about it? But if they can be this adamant about and push back against the community on something that's not such a big deal, is that testing the water for something bigger down the road? And it's just
that's one of my big concerns is that, you know, the core consensus process is a little broken right now, because consensus should mean everybody agrees. Everybody clearly doesn't. But this is
why
going through.
And
you know, for policy decision, it doesn't matter all that much. I mean, it's going to have some consequences, but it's you know, for consensus changes, that's gonna result in a fork of some kind. So, you know, I worry about where like if they're this adamant on this particular change, then where, you know, how are things going to be in the future when, you know, you have like an actual soft fork proposal or something like that. So
yeah, exactly.
Thank you so much, Jimmy, for chiming in. We really appreciate you breaking this down for us. Thank you so much. Yeah, we hope to have you back on sometime soon.
All right, sounds good, man.
Thank you.
Make sure you smash that like button, subscribe. This is BitcoinCenter, brought to you by Byte Federal. Go bank yourself. We're going to move on to the next topic here.
Tether's genius stablecoin Gambit. Tether's launching USAT, a U.S. regulated stablecoin for Americans, led by former White House advisor
Bo Hines.
Bo Hines. Now we know where he went.
Yeah, for a lot of money, probably.
And complying with Trump's new Genius Act. What is the difference compared to USDT?
I think the difference is going to be what backs it. It's an odd statement because they say that they're going to still bring USDT here and that's going to be in compliance with the Genius Act. But this is clearly being launched to compete in America with probably some sort of other asset pool behind it besides regular Tether.
Right. And it's being launched with a partnership at Anchorage Digital.
Right.
Which is the only custodian that's a national bank that handles crypto.
Right.
So it is going to be like meeting all the standards of the Genius Act.
Yep. And Kenneth Fitzgerald will also be involved. So yeah. Anchorage Digital Bank, which has a national trust bank charter with the U.S. Office of the Comptroller of the Currency.
Yeah. When Brian Brooks was in office, or the head of the OCC, they snuck in and got that bank license, and then we went into Choke Point 2.0, and they still remain to be like one of the only ones that have it. Yeah,
Tether bought 33.1 billion of U.S. Treasury bills in 2024, the 7th largest buyer of U.S. government debt, and that this sort of like negates what Saifedean was saying would make Tether so great, is if it's backed by Bitcoin.
Yeah, but but it's also what we've discussed in the past, which is that we have a U.S. Tether, and we have an offshore Tether,
right? And
so now we have a euro dollar Tether,
sure,
that's going to be managed in a different way, and has the ability to pay interest and really take over all the foreign markets. I think it's a really interesting play.
So with USDT, if it's backed by Bitcoin, you have the potential for it to be worth more than $1, right? And so it's worth $1.1. With treasuries behind it, I think you're going to see that it's going to be worth less than $1, right? 99 cents, or come in. But then you'll have natural, almost like a difficulty adjustment, because people are going to want to buy that dollar for less than $1.
Right.
Large pools of capital. So it kind of builds in a floor.
And if are traders going to want to set up offshore accounts to have USDT offshore?
No,
where they can get interest?
This is all about rolling out stable coins.
No, I understand that, but think about the implications of having two different tethers in existence.
Terrible. I think I think first it's going to be very predatory outside the country until they turn it on us. But different. Yeah. All right. Let's move on to the next one. All right. The Charlie Kirk assassination, the passing of Charlie Kirk. Conservative activist Charlie Kirk was horrifically assassinated at a Utah campus on Wednesday. The U.S. now faces its worst wave of political violence since the 1970s. What does it mean to be an American in this moment, and what would it take for the country to step back from the brink and prevent spiraling into even more violence?
So I wanted to do the best I could on this question when I saw it, and so I didn't want to just wing it. So I wrote some things down, and I'd like to read them. And I wanted to tell people that this is not political. This is not an agenda, but it is, I think, hopefully going to communicate where we are in America at this point and where we are as Americans after this event. So the response to Charlie Kirk's assassination has been eye-opening. Some have mourned and others have celebrated. And that celebration is horrifying. It tells us nothing about Charlie. It tells us everything about the state of America. It isn't just politics. It's something far darker. When you believe that another person's ideas or their beliefs are so dangerous that they must be silenced through violence, and when you celebrate that violence, you have entered the darkest place a human mind can go. We used to say, sticks and stones may break our bones, but words will never hurt me. We understood that differences existed, that no matter what we think of each other's beliefs, at the end of the day, we all want the same thing: a better life for ourselves, a better future for our children. And we knew America was the best place on earth to achieve it. Today, or on that day, that dream felt lost. The system seemed rigged. The people have lost hope. And when hope dies, people want answers. They want to know who's to blame. The powers that be are all too happy to supply those answers. They will point at a convenient enemy. They will whisper it's them and that violence is justified. Social media will amplify the rage. Algorithms will trap us in echo chambers. Tribes will form and truth will shudder. But that's the trap, and that's the psyop. The same psyop that has led to endless wars, loss of freedoms, and authoritarian leaders. So deep down, we all still want the same thing: a fair shot, an equal opportunity, the freedom to fail or to succeed on our own terms. And this is why I believe Charlie was a Bitcoiner, because Bitcoin is aligned with those original values of the American dream. Bitcoin's neutral. It has no party. It searches for truth. It gives everyone equal rights under the protocol. It gives everyone a voice. It has no rules. It has rules, no rulers. It doesn't divide, it unites. It doesn't censor, it doesn't corrupt, and it supports humanity. Bitcoin is hope, freedom, and Bitcoin is love. Charlie valued these qualities because they are American values. And Charlie tried to search for the truth, and he suffered for speaking truth to power. Charlie was a Bitcoiner because he believed it would make America better and in turn make us all better. He believed it would help us be better people, better friends, and better humans.
There's not a lot to add to that. There was a tweet by Amen. There was not a lot to add to that, but there was a tweet by Just a Thought. We are being manipulated on a national level by a military-grade psychological operation meant to isolate us into groups and view all those not inside the group as evil and non-human. The scene is being set for mass chaos, violence, and control. Will you play along? I mean, yeah. I mean, it's worrisome.
Mm-hmm. It is. I don't know if you saw Chase Hughes' comments in YouTube video on that psyop. I think he did a really good job of explaining it. Hopefully more people have seen it. I think it's up to about 4 million views now. Really, we need to have 300 million views on that. Yeah, it's not a lot. But I see it amongst people that I associate with. They get caught up in the fight.
Yeah.
And oftentimes just fights are not real. And I think we have to all step back. And it's so hard to do in the face of such evil, but you have to step back and you have to stay level-headed. And I always come back to this, just remember that at the end of the day, despite all our differences, we all want the same thing for our families. All of us.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you for sharing that. It's not an easy subject to talk about. I think we should break now and bring in Tomer.
Yeah.
Change it up a little bit, but I'm sure that will come up a lot more. So let's bring in Tomer Strolay and get back into the Knott's first core thing here.
Hi, guys. Good evening.
Tomer.
Thanks for joining us.
We actually want to see you. We've all seen a lot of things this week we didn't want to see. We're excited to see you, Tomer. Thank you for joining.
Oh, well, it's nice to see you guys as well. And it was nice seeing your little dog there, too. I don't know if he's still with you.
Yeah, man. Neo's right here.
Out.
He's passed out. He was all like a gremlin, like for a minute.
Cool.
He's lucky he's cute. We'll put it that way.
Cool.
So, Tomer, obviously this Knott's and core debate has a lot of philosophical and cultural questions around the purpose of Bitcoin. And you've done a lot of work in that space.
Mm-hmm.
And I would love to hear your thoughts on what, this debate and how this is affecting sort of the bigger purpose of Bitcoin.
Yeah, I mean, I think that this is ultimately incredibly healthy for Bitcoin. And I am not just spewing stuff. Like I think your previous guests were talking about how there's a challenge right now with, and this was always bound to happen. Sooner or later, this is a don't trust, verify system. And sooner or later, we're going to lose our trust in core. And this isn't even blaming it on the current situation, but we held core in such reverence during the early days of Bitcoin. Satoshi passed on the keys and passed on the reverence that we were feeling for him onto the core group, and it was a mature, quiet, calm, rigid, unchanging group that didn't act with haste. And I'm wondering if that's been, the succession has passed on and on again, and we're not seeing the same kind of thing. And that's not necessarily bad. It's like it was bound to happen, right? There's a great saying. I heard it originally was attributed to Warren Buffett, but I would have never been able to verify that. But the saying is, I'd only invest in a company that any idiot can run because eventually one will. And, I'd only put all my money in a protocol that nobody can run because eventually some idiot will. And it's not to say that the core approach here is idiotic, but it's from a brand management perspective, as you were discussing earlier, like using your Coca-Cola example. This isn't good stewardship. And that's besides the point of whether it's technically sound or not. If you're alienating a lot of people because they either don't understand why you're making the change or your change is hasty, then you're doing harm to yourself. But core is doing harm to core. In this sense, you're not doing harm to Bitcoin. In fact, Bitcoin is being strengthened because we're now seeing multiple implementations take place. We're seeing many people who are saying, well, like Jimmy did, I'm not going to run the new version of Core. We're seeing many people saying, I'm, as a protest, running knots and sending out a clear message that I don't approve of these changes. So you're getting a lot of involvement and not deference to Core, but critical thought. And you're also seeing many people saying, I agree with Core. So you're actually seeing a lot of involvement, critical thought. You're seeing the number of nodes go up. Many of them are real nodes. Who knows exactly how many are or aren't? And you're seeing people accusing. So everything's forcing you to think for yourself and make decisions for yourself. And so that's a really good thing for Bitcoin, because as many people have said, and I agree with it completely, really the only danger Bitcoin faces is if all the Bitcoiners become complacent, right? If everybody said whatever 5 people at Core decide, that's fine by us. Who am I to question why? Mine is but to do or die. Like that is, we're not unthinking soldiers. We're all generals in Bitcoin. And so I think Bitcoin's purpose emerges from what we all demand it to be and what we can control it to be. And I think that there is a debate right now as to whether its purpose is strictly money or it's other things too, or it's other things too because, well, even they're outside its purpose. So that whole discussion is taking place, but this is healthy. And for people who are new to Bitcoin, and this is their first cycle or this is their first scary moment in Bitcoin, it's like, this is good for Bitcoin. This isn't something that should scare you away. It's something that should make you realize this is more robust and anti-fragile than other systems that you've come to know and love. And it's not as susceptible to being taken over by a leader. There is no leader, even if someone mistakenly believes they are the leader. And we've seen that in past conflicts, and we're seeing it in the current one.
Well said.
Someone yourself who's been active on X in this conversation or debate, however you want to frame it, what has your experience been like discussing or debating this topic with Core supporters or people from Core?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a long event, right? This isn't just the most recent event. This begins with the inscriptions exploit being found that you could put a lot of data into the SegWit portion of using Taproot's tap script, however you want to say it. And when it first came out, it caused a lot of panic because it really bloated the blockchain. Fees shot up to thousands of sats per VByte very quickly. And the immediate reaction, and I think there's something to be said here. I know you guys have been talking about how we feel in the short term about the Charlie Kirk thing. There was, like, in the short term of an event happening, you react emotionally, you react to the rawness of the thing, and then in time you start to integrate it and think about it and understand what its meaning is, and day by day you get there. And I think a lot of people realized, well, these spammers are causing congestion on the blockchain and making it very hard to transact affordably, but they're going to run out of money, and the value proposition of what they're doing is not going to endure. And that played out, although it became very expensive and inconvenient to use the Bitcoin blockchain when that thing was popular. And then at the most recent halving, there was the launch of Runes, which also did the same thing, and everyone competed to be in the same block. And again, there was expense and inconvenience to people trying to use Bitcoin as money instead of to mint all sorts of altcoins. And so the Core position, the position of people who said, well, you see, you don't have to do anything about it because it takes care of itself. To one point, they have a point to some extent, but it's like, if your house gets invaded by locusts every couple of years and they eat all your food, you still want to prevent the locusts from coming in when they eat your food, even if they run out of food to eat. So there's that debate, but there's also what can we do and what should we do? And there's a group that's saying there's nothing we can do. There's a group that's saying, to some degree, there's so little we can do that we might as well swing the doors open. And I think this is where I would play a little bit with Jimmy's metaphor of, like, put a lock on the door or not. It's like, we've got a door that's open 80 millimeters. Right, it's just like a few things can get through, and we're saying everybody's got to open their door 100,000 millimeters, right? Because that's what a byte is, a measure of how open the protocol is. And unsurprisingly, a lot of people are saying, hold on a minute, nobody could come and take my piano or take my refrigerator or take suitcases out of my house. They're putting stuff in instead of taking it out, so that's where the metaphor breaks. But people are concerned, and rightfully so. And the claim that says keeping the door open only a fraction of an inch or a couple of inches is not really any more effective than swinging it wide open is not persuasive to everybody else, right? And I think that that's where the social clash here is. I also think that there's a lesson to be learned in how to talk to people. I mean, I think, Cedric, you were asking how have I personally experienced it, and I've experienced it not as a healthy dialogue like what we're having here as a mature dialogue. I've experienced it as a lot of people hurling a lot of insults, telling people that they're stupid, telling people to fork off, telling people to sell their Bitcoin. And so that actually doesn't persuade anybody. And I don't think people appreciate how much they've harmed their own cause on the core side by talking to everybody else, by talking down to everybody else, and I'm not going to use the language that's used on those spaces and in those discussions, but it doesn't, it isn't advancing the cause of creating consensus or winning over supporters. And I think some of the people have been quite candid, not core developers, but some of the people on this debate have been quite candid that they'd like to see other people fork off and create a chain split and then create a coin that will be dumped like Bitcoin Cash, because that's how they came by a lot of coin. So there's a lot of different perspectives on here. And I think that there are people who are not interested in persuading other people, or they're trying to drive a wedge between others. And core has become caught up in this commitment of not, of saying that they wanted to do something, escalating it, and then not being prepared to budge on it. Oh, have we lost our internet connection here? Frozen.
Yeah, I think it's them though. Oh. I don't think it's you. I'm the guy behind the show, but.
Oh, you're the guy behind the show. It's them who's frozen?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, at least it's not me.
All right.
This is Francis?
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, Francis. Hopefully they get their internet back.
Yeah, I'll try to keep them up.
Is the show still streaming just without
it is, yeah.
Oh, hi everybody. So I'm still live. Good thing I didn't say anything I'd regret.
Nah, no worries. You're just in front of 700 people plus. They left, but I can let you go, and then
all right.
And then yeah.
Okay, well listen, thanks for having me on. I'm sorry for the technical difficulties everybody's been having. And
oh, they're back.
Oh, okay. There we go. Welcome back. I've been hosting the show on my own. You wouldn't believe what I had to say.
Did we lose us, or did we lose you?
It was you who got lost, not me.
Wow, there you go.
That's good. Our ratings are going up.
we were really funny when we were gone. Do you think? I think that I have this inclination that there's something nefarious about this. And that I'm not saying core is nefarious.
Yeah.
But and I'm not saying everyone who supports the thing is nefarious, the raising of the op return limit. But I do think that there's some seed, some kernel, and I think it's more than just the op return. I think that's one aspect of it.
Right.
I think it's, can you fund or sponsor a project that and get it through that has served someone interest and not everyone's.
I think we're all unhappy. We all had
and I think it's a social attack.
Yeah, going back a few years, I remember listening to other podcasts who would have wealthy Bitcoiners on, and the podcaster would say, "Why don't you fund some core developers?" And the wealthy individuals would say, "Oh, I didn't even know that I could do that." And we're like, "You got to fund core developers. It's good for core." And now we see core developers who are funded by corporations, and we're like, "Wait a minute, are their interests? Are they really objective and neutral?"
No one should be labeled or have the title of core contributor.
Right. Well,
you either contribute or you're working on something that will be contributed.
I mean, I think that there are keys to the project.
Say that.
There are keys to the project, and this is the title that gets core maintainer. And I do think we haven't had a conversation, nor is there a process that people are involved in to say, who gets to be a maintainer and what kind of people are we looking for? You can see the IRC chats that say, "Oh, I'd like to put so-and-so in charge of this." And the other people who are maintainers are in there say, "Okay, I'll ack it." And there's no job interview. There's no job requirements that are formally listed. Maybe there shouldn't be, but there aren't. And so you end up with people in there, and we don't do personality tests, and we're not hiring for tremendous experience. And I don't really mean this to be an attack on the individuals who are in those roles. It's a questioning the process. And ultimately, it's a questioning of the people, not to say they're bad people, but to say, maybe we really should be looking at people with minimum of 25 years of experience to give the keys to, rather than 5 years out of school. We want people who've had a chance to screw a lot of stuff up in their life and have learned from it, not people who haven't had a chance to make their mistakes yet, because everyone needs the opportunity to make mistakes, just not on this $2 trillion project of ours that we
there's also like Satoshi, whoever he or they were,
I bet you he wasn't 25,
right? Well, who knows, but
no way.
But my point is that there was a deep understanding of monetary history and the value of money.
Yes.
That got embedded in the code.
Yes.
And this is the disconnect I'm seeing with the people I'm hearing from on the core side today. That it's all about the data, it's all about the code, it's all about these things that don't have anything to do with the monetary properties.
Right. They're not trying to invent and harden the money. They're acknowledging, they're focused on a narrow thing, which is it's not only the technology, but it's only the censorship resistance, right? Yeah. Only the permissionlessness. And they're saying, well, if we make it hard to do the spam, we might make it hard to do the transactions. And if we make it hard to do the transactions, then we have censorship and we lose a very valuable part of Bitcoin. So I don't want to overstate their narrow-sightedness here, but there are other things here. And as Bitcoin becomes, there's probably 100 times as many people in Bitcoin now as there were the last time we had a fork war, right? And this isn't a fork war, but that was a block size war. This is the block space war. If you have to declare it as something, it's like, what do we use the block space for? And you need to have the really big picture in order to gain enough consensus to make a change. And we clearly don't have a lot of consensus here. There's a lot of debate, there's a lot of dispute. And so there can't be, if you just take an objective and mature perspective on it, there can't possibly be urgency to this thing, right? Like the system is running fine every day without this change. And there's a lot of people who are concerned about this change. So you don't, force it in and then end up with this dispute of people now dealing with it, and that I fear is what we've gotten into. And there's an urgency and a time crisis. It doesn't need to be there. I personally think this could be an opportunity to step back from this change and say, okay, you know what, we can't really enforce. There's been a big revelation. We used to think that filters were highly reliable. It now turns out that filters can be worked around. So does that mean that all the things that we filtered, we're just going to let go? Or does it say, you know what, it's like the screen door has a big hole in it and big flies can get through. Maybe we should be doing something different. But instead, we have these people who say, well, hard fork or soft fork, or sell your coins to leave, rather than
that's part of the attack.
Dialogue to say, is this
that just sounds like an attack.
It's all of it is it's attack with different vectors, and you just prod, you poke, and look, Bitcoin's anti-fragile. It'll survive this, but it'll make it stronger. But we're gonna go through it, and that's not always fun.
Yeah. Well, and we need to again. This is not anyone who thinks Bitcoin's going to be a smooth ride. It needs to check. There should be like a warning sign in front of this. Like people with heart conditions and fear issues and other things should not get on this ride. I was watching the movie though.
I bet they gotta pull back. Like you're watching the movie, like the final act is they come out and they say we're gonna go to 160 bytes and we're sorry, and
it could be.
We're going to stay in our lane and keep.
This is like we're going to the brink.
The user share back and regain everyone's trust, and we're
coming to the brink of the situation. But there's so many lessons learned, right? And I think that's the beauty of it. Like, and when you're raw in the moment, just like we were talking about before, it's hard to see the lesson because you're just so angry at the guy who just called you an idiot because of something that you think you weren't an idiot about at all. So that must mean he's an idiot. but then you get the time to step back from it. And when you step back from it, you say, what did we learn from this? And we learned a lot from the block size wars. We learned a lot from all the other critical challenges that we've had in the past. And it's important that we now bring that learning to this situation, and whatever we learn from this situation to the next one, because the two situations are never exactly identical to one another, but they rhyme, or there's something you can take from it. So I think Bitcoin ends up a lot stronger at the end of the day with this, and hopefully a lot of people also learn how to treat each other better.
Right. Well, Tomer, you make a lot of sense to me, and I appreciate your insight.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me on, guys. Really appreciate the work you guys do.
Love having you on.
Thanks, Tomer.
All right, talk to you soon, buddy.
Bye-bye.
Well, hit like and subscribe. Thank you for tuning into Bitcoin Center. My name is Cedric Youngelman.
Paul Tarantino.
Go bank yourself. This is brought to you by Byte Federal. Hit up your Bitcoin ATM, put it in the Byte Federal wallet, and use the Byte Federal point of sale. That's one I'm most excited about. But get your Bitcoin, put it in self-custody. Let's get on to the lightning round. Let's tear through these.
All right. Pantera's Moorhead doubles down. Dan Moorhead, who predicted 120K BTC this year, now sees Bitcoin doubling to 230K by next year. Is Bitcoin ready to hit all-time highs?
I mean, it seems like everything's kind of coming into play for the fourth quarter here, or Q4. I think really with this Genius Act and what they're trying to do with USAT now, and I think they're just holding the puck back for the stablecoin rollout to sell treasuries. That's what it feels like. But I want to about Moorhead though. So in 2013, Dan Moorhead, founder and chief executive at Pantera, back then a global macro hedge fund, called on investors to invest in Bitcoin, a fringe, little understood digital asset. He said Bitcoins are now trading at $65, exactly half the price they were trading at our first meeting. I think we should buy aggressively now. He wrote in a letter to his investors in 2013. He's like, I am going to buy 30,000 Bitcoins this weekend with personal money. The fund can have this purchase or not, as others wish. And then he reached out, and then they pivoted to Bitcoin and even crypto, but they did things like Coinbase. They did Ripple. They even got in, they put 500,000 into MicroStrategy in 2021, or bought 500 million? I don't know, some crazy number that's now worth like 6 billion. They at one point owned 2% of all Bitcoins. They've trimmed their position over the years to kind of carry the trade, and a lot of their investors have cashed out over 12 years, or kind of took some returns. But very interesting story.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's dead on. Barring some unforeseen event, barring some business cycle crisis, or
he called
else, we're going there.
He called like 111,000 in like November 2021, and now he's calling for 230 next year. All right, let's move on to the next one. Africa's Lightning payments breakthrough. So Chipper Cash says half its Bitcoin transactions now run on Lightning. Is Africa leapfrogging broken banks or stress testing Lightning's limits?
It's leapfrogging. This is like, this is like, remember China's cell phone moment and wireless internet moment, like when we were kids or we were in college or whatever, and they leapfrogged from wired and from like a telephone network and DSL, and they went right to wireless and right to cellular and just leapfrogged us. And I this is what's going to happen if there were countries that don't have deep banking infrastructure. They're going to adapt open decentralized networks that they can operate on that serve their banking needs. Lightning is an awesome tool for that, and they're going to jump into the future before we can, because we're still carrying the baggage of the old infrastructure.
All right, I agree. Let's move on to the next one. I'm rooting for him.
All right, the Bitcoin payment that was beamed from space. The Bitcoin payment just zipped through space via satellite. It's off-grid transacting. The future of global payments are still a distant experiment.
Yeah, this is a distant experiment, in my opinion. This is like a nothing burger. This is a proof of concept. This just demonstrates Bitcoin's resilience and censorship qualities. I don't think that this is like a big thing in the market.
I think this is a big thing when you think about it from a resilience perspective.
Sure.
And I know that they've been running nodes on satellites for years. This is not,
Blockstream's a part of this.
Yeah, this is a first Lightning payment, I guess it would be from space. I think that's great. The amount of duplicative infrastructure that we have off grid, whether it's Bluetooth, satellite, you name it. I think it's all great.
I don't know why it means anything to me. I don't know how it's really different than any other Lightning Payment, but I'm excited they're doing it.
Yes,
there you go.
keep it
I'm gonna
up.
leave it at that. It's
Keep
great
it up.
they're doing it. I feel like Hansel and Zoolander. It's just great they're doing it. All right. Binance USA on life support. I never know if it's Binance or Binance.
I'm with Binance.
All right, Binance USA on life support. With Binance, U.S. market share collapsed to 0.2%. Can near zero fees and restored U.S. dollar access revive activity?
I think it's too little, too late. They're, you know, I mean, the
They
dominance of the U.S.
CZ's organization, huh?
Yeah, well, not offshore. I mean,
Okay, they're still big.
still very, very strong offshore. They just never got a good foothold in the United States. I think the regulatory pressures.
Really a lot of changeover,
like
too.
a lot of the techniques that Binance used to become the behemoth they are offshore were never really allowed onshore.
Yeah.
And so they had a hard time competing against
That makes
the
sense.
embedded U.S. exchanges.
I don't miss them. Let's move on.
Next. U.S. Treasury's stablecoin scrutiny. As the U.S. moves to tighten rules on stablecoins, will stricter oversight make stablecoins more trusted, or will companies shift their operations abroad?
I think companies are coming to the U.S. to get in this game.
Yeah.
I think they're making it not more trusted for the consumer. I think that's all sort of cover for going after whoever they want, defining listed activity any way they want. This is just them getting their ducks in a row for business to business commerce.
I think it's a little bit of both, right? I think you're right. I think there are going to be companies that want to come to the U.S. They think that this is the ultimate market. We'll put up these rules, these regulations.
Well, the biggest players
it's
will.
safe, it's secure, etc. But at the same time, it's going to push all the innovation to Asia, right?
Sure.
And you're already seeing that coming out of Singapore and Hong Kong, and they're going to create things that far exceed what we can even fathom because they're not burdened by that.
So I think it really
environment.
depends on how much they want to turn Bitcoin into a pet rock and gatekeep it.
Yes.
And they don't care about innovation. I just don't think they do.
True.
I really don't. Let's move on to the next one. Vitalik, don't regulate AI yet. Vitalik Buterin calls AI governance a bad idea for now.
Yeah, no, I guess clarification, right? It's AI governance of blockchains.
Okay.
Not like don't regulate AI in total.
Sure. Okay.
And he was making I hate it when I agree with Vitalik.
Okay. Yeah. Walk me through this.
So he was making the point that there's still some fragility or risks associated with just relying on AI to provide governance over a blockchain, because he made some he named some specific cases where people were able to hack into the AI, fooled AI to do things that they didn't want it to do, and that relying on it to provide governance on a blockchain at this point would be too risky. And I think it makes sense when you look at, like, if you've had long conversations with ChatGPT or any of the other AIs, you begin to realize that this thing just wants to kiss your ass and make you feel like you're brilliant, even if you're dumb as a box of rocks. And because I've talked about topics that I'm as dumb as a box of rocks on, and then we've done my own research and been like, this idiot's just telling me what I want to hear. So I don't think AI is at a point where it can be trusted to do, pure, solid governance.
Dude, you know how many of those AI conversations are going to end up in court? There's no privacy on these things. People are like, yeah, I mean, all they're going to end up in court and divorce court, and all of it's horrible.
Yeah,
It's
just
gonna be
if you talk to it about things you really know about, you can quickly come to the conclusion you
I see
get
what you're
frustrated
saying.
with it.
Yeah, that's with anything in life.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on. So, all right.
Wall Street's giant $6 billion Bitcoin bet. When a classic value investor, buys Bitcoin exposure, does it redefine intrinsic value, or what intrinsic value means in today's market?
I was getting my facts mixed up. So these are the guys. All right. So the Capital Group, a 94-year-old mutual fund powerhouse known for its conservative investment approach. They've grown their $1 billion position in Bitcoin-related stocks into more than $6 billion. These are the people who bought $500 million of MicroStrategy.
Right.
And wrote
value
it up.
investors.
Yeah.
Buffett-style value.
Yeah. Benjamin Graham and Warren Buffett. But the guy who led the charge on this, he worked there for 25 years. He's like, I just love Bitcoin. I just think it's so interesting. He said this on a podcast interview with venture firm Andreessen Horowitz. So those are the shitcoin provocateurs. I don't like what they do, but he called Bitcoin one of the coolest things that has ever been created by people. I think this is really cool. And so in 2021, they bought a 12.3% stake in Strategy for over $500 million. That's now diluted down to 7.89% due to share issuance and some trimming. It's worth about $6.2 billion. So that's like really kind of the bulk of it. But they're in a bunch of stuff. I think it's cool.
As well. I think the interesting point, right, is that from an intrinsic value investor's perspective, to apply intrinsic value bets on companies based on the big macro view of debt devaluation. I'm assuming that's kind of how they're getting this value perspective.
Yeah.
Is taking that bigger view as opposed to just looking at just the internals of the company.
It's great. I love that they're just doing it with joy. Let's move on to the next one. Gemini's blockbuster IPO. The exchange jumped 32% on its NASDAQ debut after a 20x oversubscribed IPO. Does this resurge in crypto IPO market cement Bitcoin's Wall Street integration, or is it a sign of a frothy market?
It's both. I mean, I think it is cementing us. I know NASDAQ invested a lot of money in Gemini. NASDAQ is also talking about 24/5 trading.
Yeah.
They're talking about security tokens. They're talking about settlement on the blockchain. You know, there are going to be TradFi / crypto exchange mergers here at some point in the future. So it is fully embedded in the system now, structurally going to start to influence the way markets have traded for years. These are things that we've talked about since the early days when we got into this stuff. It just makes sense, right? It's so efficient. It also connects with the desire for more stable coins, right? If your exchange is going to be running 24/7, 365, you need instant settlement. You want it on a blockchain.
This is more Wall Street integration, whether Gemini is the winner or not.
So they're in, and congratulations to the twins.
All right, let's get on to the next one.
First Dogecoin ETF delayed. Why is this even on here? Is this just a temporary setback or still a watershed moment for meme coins on Wall Street?
Dude, okay. What's interesting about this is earlier this month, the DOJ ETF, the Doge ETF, won approval under the Investment Company Act of 1940, a framework typically used for mutual funds and diversified ETFs. This sets it apart from Bitcoin ETFs, approved under the Securities Act of 1933, which governs commodity and asset-backed products rather than fund-style vehicles. So I feel bad for Eric Balchunas, friend of the show. He's been on the Bitcoin Matrix, but he has to comment on this as the senior market analyst for Bloomberg ETF. So he told Cointelegraph that he learned of the direct delay directly from the company behind the ETF. The analyst added that he does not expect this ETF to have a minimal impact on Dogecoin's price, but he thought that it was interested that this is going to be the first ETF that's backed by nothing.
Yes. Well, it's backed by the derivatives that trade.
Yeah.
So
they're not even buying Dogecoin. They're buying derivatives and indirect exposure.
Remember when I was in TradFi and I was like, I want to get my clients exposure to some commodities, and they're like, oh, you can do the UBS commodity ETF. I was like, it's fucking linked to futures markets. This fucking thing trades like a fucking piece of shit. This is garbage. Why would I put my customers? Oh, it's commodities exposure. So yeah, you've got Dogecoin exposure in the derivatives market, and it's going to be just a complete. It's a joke coin, and it's a joke ETF.
Lending,
it really
credibility and shine. It's very disappointing. It's predatory.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to the next one. Taproot. I think we have a clip here, right?
Yep.
Jimmy Stone on Vlog 27.
Was Taproot a wise decision? In this video, I'm going to make the case that Taproot hasn't lived up to expectations. First, Schnorr signatures were being hyped as a new way to do multisig. Musig and Frost had only one public key and one signature on chain, but underneath there would be multiple signers, not only providing privacy, but also saving space, reducing fees. But once Taproot activated, only a few Lightning wallets used it. Why? Because of the interaction requirements. Instead of a single round of collecting signatures, Music and Frost required multiple rounds of collecting and sharing data before a signature could be generated. The bad user experience basically made it a non-starter. Second, script path spends from the Merkleized abstract syntax tree was supposed to give us all kinds of different ways to back up our UTXOs. We could have, for example, 3 of 5 of our friends help us recover our funds should we lose our private key. Except that the act of setting up the backup solution was more difficult than setting up a traditional multisig setup, which meant that it really wasn't an improvement. What's worse, you had to have the entirety of the Taproot script tree to be able to spend from any of the script paths, and you need the Merkle root to even spend from the key path, which makes backing up a nightmare, which is why wallets haven't implemented it. Third, 95% of Taproot outputs are now spam like ordinals and BRC20. The argument by the developers has been that the same could have been done using just SegWit or even pay-to-script hash. But what they ignore is that Taproot had significant trolling value as the upgrade that Bitcoiners were placing their hopes in. The spammers used Taproot because of the damage to the Bitcoin's reputation. The increase in the social attack surface of this upgrade wasn't accounted for at all, let alone considered. Taproot can, of course, redeem itself. Maybe Arc ultimately decentralizes mining. Maybe BitVM creates way more Bitcoin demand. But so far, Taproot has not lived up to the cost users paid to get it.
Wow.
Yeah, he nailed it on that. I thought that was so great because I was one of those Bitcoiners that was just like, Taproot is going to be amazing. It's going to create all these great opportunities. And I feel like I've been waiting and waiting and waiting, and it's always coming. It's always coming. And Taproot assets are coming, and it's going to change everything. And but
well, I don't think
Jimmy provided a lot of insight as to why this is going to be something that's more complicated than everybody realizes, and it goes along with what Samson was saying is like, question the science.
Yeah, and maybe not rush things. Maybe we have Luke Dasher's been saying maybe Taproot was a mistake. I don't think I like where Taproot assets are going. I really have the jury out on that one. Let's get into the next one here. I think you got the last one. Ask me.
PayPal adds peer-to-peer Bitcoin transfers after 25 years. Peter Thiel set out to build this encrypted money. So it takes a quarter century for PayPal to roll out support for this feature that it was founded to build. Should we recalibrate our optimism about Bitcoin adoption timelines, or just learn to enjoy really, really long term?
I mean, how far has PayPal, strayed from their original roots and mission?
Yeah.
How long has Thiel been really interested in currency and all of these things? Long time. Yeah, but what I also think is, and I don't know if this is true or validated, but it seems like this new technology from PayPal is just a copying River's link.
It's almost like throwing in the towel.
Yeah.
I mean, look at PayPal didn't succeed in creating something like Bitcoin because they were PayPal. Because you could point at Thiel and Elon and say, those are the guys that are creating PayPal. So, of course, that's why all the previous DigiCash and eCash, everything failed because there was a founder, there was a person, there was a server, there was something you could attach.
Sure.
Bitcoin was the only innovation that changed that entire game. Satoshi, he or they were anonymous. The protocol was decentralized. It was launched without any value. It was voluntary. It hacked itself into existence. And that cannot be duplicated. So to ask this question is just like, no, this is really just PayPal finally saying, we didn't do it, so we got to give it.
Right.
And it shows the irrelevance of PayPal or any of these closed networks relative to an open network, an open standard that anybody can participate in.
Yeah. Well, keep your eye on the PayPal mafia and watch those guys.
Yeah, you got to keep your eye on them. Exactly.
All right. So this has been awesome.
Thank you.
Please hit like and subscribe. This is BitcoinCenter. Francis, I don't know if we have any Q&A, and this is brought to you by Byte Federal. So go bank yourself.
Yeah, not really.
Okay.
All right, well, let's roll out. See you guys next Tuesday. Gambit.